in about 30 seconds. Well, I guess we got 5:30. To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic which stands one nation, under God, indivisible. with justice for all. Thank you. Roll call vote.
Mark Serbrook,
Present.
Craig Scott, Charles Wiltie,
Here.
Roger Mayhew,
Yes.
Jenny David.
Here. Any additions or corrections to the agenda?
I've got one.
Go ahead.
Can we add VHF paging radio? Ogemaw County Emergency Dispatch,
Where would you like that at?
wherever it works out.
New business?
Sure.
F. Radios. Any other additions or corrections?
What's that?
What is it called?
VHF radios. Any other additions or corrections? Can someone make a
I'll
motion?
make a motion to approve with the amendment as VHF radios under new business.
Support.
Motion from Commissioner Serbrook, support from Commissioner Mayhew. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 3, declarations of conflicts of interest. Any commissioners?
None.
Review of minutes. We have the March 13th regular meeting minutes.
I had the opportunity to review them. I would make a motion that we approve the minutes as
Motion Commissioner Serbrook,
Support.
support from Commissioner Wiltie. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 4B, March 20th, 2025, Committee of the Whole meeting minutes.
I've read the minutes. Make a motion.
Motion from
Support.
Commissioner Wiltie, support from Commissioner Serbrook. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 5, public comment on agenda matters only. Any public comment in the room? Any public comment on the phone? Item 6, we did receive correspondence from Department of Environment, Great Lakes and Energy related to air quality divisions pending new source review application report that has been received and filed. Item 7, consent agenda. You guys want to take these individually?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I agree. Item 7A, resolution to accept the fiscal year 2024 audit report. This resolution is sponsored by the Committee of the Whole. The Michigan Uniform Budgeting and Accounting Act requires that a local unit having a population of 4,000 or more shall obtain an annual audit of its financial records, accounts, and procedures. Stevenson and Company PC presented the fiscal year 2024 audit report to the Board of Commissioners at their Committee of the Whole meeting held on March 20th, 2025. Approval of the resolution will document the county's acceptance of the audit report and authorize the auditor to file one copy of the state treasurer with the state treasurer on or before March 31st, 2025.
Make the resolution to accept the fiscal year 2024 audit report.
Support.
Motion from Commissioner Wiltie, support from Commissioner Serbrook. Any further discussion?
Yes.
Go ahead, Commissioner Serbrook.
Given the article that was published in the Ogemaw County Herald, I want to clarify a couple of paragraphs in there. Says the county general fund has been virtually empty for the past couple of years at audit time, requiring some creative accounting. I just want the public to know that that creative accounting was not done by Ogemaw County employees. It was done by the auditors. And also it says it's great to finally be, Nathan Miller said, it's great to finally have, don't have to be borrowing from another fund at the end of the year and do that silly entry where we're saying we have cash that we really don't have and flip that cash back. And we didn't have to do that this year. Again, I think it's just important for the public to know that that wasn't anything that we as the county board of commissioners or the treasurer's office was doing. It was a requirement that the auditors were doing. That's all.
It was definitely nothing illegal. It was just
Yeah,
not best
correct.
practice.
Exactly.
Any other, Commissioner Wiltie?
No.
Okay. Anything else? Roll call vote.
Jenny David,
Yes.
Roger Mayhew,
Yes.
Charles Wiltie.
Yes.
Mark Serbrook.
Yeah.
Item 7B, resolution to appoint members to the Finance Board of Directors. This resolution is sponsored by the Committee of the Whole. The terms of Commissioner Serbrook and Commissioner Wiltie on the Wellvance Board of Directors will expire on March 31st, 2025. Both have confirmed the desire for reappointment. Approval of the resolution will appoint Commissioner Serbrook and Commissioner Wiltie to the Authority Board for a term ending on March 31st, 2028. You'll make that motion, Commissioner Mayhew. I'll support it. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Item 7C, resolution to approve an earned sick time policy. This resolution is sponsored by Administrator/Controller Timothy Delahoney. On February 21st, 2025, Governor Whitmer signed House Bill 4002 to require employers such as Ogemaw County to provide certain employees with earned sick time that may be used for certain purposes. All Michigan employees of one or more employees All Michigan employers of one or more employees are subject to the new Earned Sick Time Act, including local government entities. Approval of the resolution will ensure compliance with the new act to specify the conditions of accruing and using earned sick time.
Support.
Motion from Commissioner Mayhew,
Support.
support from Commissioner Serbrook. Tim, do you have anything?
Just a quick review on that first paragraph of the policy. Clarifying language was added since the committee of the whole meeting. I had a couple of full-time employees suggest that the way the original language was written, that they too would earn 1 hour for every 30 hours worked, which would actually be a reduction to what they were currently earning. So this very first accrual section was amended to just clarify that this is applying primarily to our part-time, seasonal, and temporary employees who weren't earning any sick time before the policy was considered. All of our full-time employees will continue to earn at their current rate, which is, as I recall in my calculations, like 1.2 hours. Well, it's more than what that minimum required is, and also clarifies that all of our union employees will continue to accrue sick time as is bargained in their contracts. Otherwise, the rest of this language is what we looked at last week.
It was quite confusing. I had reached out to a couple employees as well and asked if it would impact them, and it was just the part-time and seasonal.
Yeah, I think that calmed a lot by clarifying this, but it's not easy legislation to work through. So I appreciate their pointing that out. We've got the clarifying language in there, and I think we'll be good to go.
Tim,
Commissioner Serbrook, go ahead.
I've got a question, and I think I know the answer to it, but just to clarify. Our employees that are accumulating PTO time, does there have to be a separate sick time bank because of this law, or are we good to go with just the PTO bank as a PTO bank?
We're actually good to go with the PTO because it again accrues at a higher rate than what the statute
Correct,
requires.
but I didn't know if we had to have a specific saying, this is during sick time and not PTO. That was.
We don't.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I had to ask that same question. Yeah.
Commissioner Mayhew, do you have anything?
That's it.
Commissioner Wiltie?
No question.
We better do a roll call vote on this.
Charles Wiltie,
Yes.
Mark Serbrook,
Yes.
Jenny David.
Yes.
Roger Mayhew.
Yes.
Item 7D, resolution to authorize an agreement for preparation of cost allocation plans. This resolution is sponsored by Administrator/Controller Timothy Delahoney. Ogemaw County receives grant funding, which allows for the indirect recovery of costs incurred by other county agencies that support their operations through a cost allocation plan. Preparation of a new cost allocation plan is complex and requires specialized knowledge. Maximus Consulting Services Incorporated, a state-recognized vendor, has provided accurate and timely cost allocation planning service to Ogemaw County for many years. Approval of the resolution will authorize an agreement with Maximus to perform this service for fiscal year 2024 and fiscal year 2025 at a total annual cost of $7,000.
Make a motion that we adopt the resolution as presented.
Motion from Commissioner Serbrook,
Support.
support from Commissioner Wiltie. Tim, do you have anything to add to this?
I don't. It's just something we're required to have each year.
Any questions, commissioners, comments?
The nice thing is the price hasn't increased.
This is required, as you stated. We have no way around this, correct? Roll call vote?
Mark Serbrook.
Yes.
Jenny David.
Yes.
Roger Mayhew.
Yes.
Charles Wiltie.
Yes.
Item 7C, resolution of support for broadband equity access and development grant applications. This resolution is sponsored by the Committee of the Whole. As of 2023, approximately 30% in households do not have affordable, reliable, high-speed internet connection that meets their needs. The Broadband Equity Access and Deployment Program appropriates $42.45 billion for high-speed internet deployment. mapping and adoption projects that are set to make a significant impact on improving internet access across the nation. The goals of the BEAD program are closely aligned with Michigan's broadband goals outlined in the state's 2021 broadband roadmap and in this 5-year action plan. Approval of the resolution, we record the board's support for all BEAD grant applications that propose to build reliable high-speed internet infrastructure in Ogemaw County, and will authorize the board's chairperson to sign any documents consistent with this resolution.
Motion for the resolution of support broadband equity access and deployment grant applications.
Support.
Motion from Commissioner Wiltie, support from Commissioner Serbrook. I believe we all had a blank copy in front of us. Did everybody get an opportunity to look at it?
Yep.
Questions, comments? All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Item 8A, claims for a total of $167,740.19.
I'll make a motion that we approve the claims in the amount of 167,740.19.
Motion Commissioner Serbrook. Support? I'll support it. Commissioner Serbrook, you have the floor.
Thank you. Really not anything jumped out. Most of the expenditures, there was out of appropriations, the building department, the clerk's office, and registered deeds automation fund was all the IT equipment that we approved a few meetings ago, so we could avoid the tariffs. There was a $7,700 bill out of corrections for training. Building and grounds had an almost $8,500 snowplow bill, and the MSU extension was $22,534.50, and that was a quarterly payment. So nothing really.
Questions for Commissioner Serbrook? I think Commissioner Scott also reviewed them with you.
Correct.
No questions.
Questions? Roll call vote?
Roger Mayhew,
Yes.
Charles Wiltie,
Yes.
Mark Serbrook,
Yes.
Jenny David.
Yes. Item 8B. Oh, no, I guess that should be, did I say unfinished business? Next on is VHF for radios. Commissioner Wiltie?
Right, so I asked him to give everyone up here a copy of the letter that was sent from our 911 director, Jesse Lowell. I just have a few questions, had a couple concerns. I was reached out yesterday by a couple people that are here tonight, one being Mills Township Supervisor Bruce Beach, and then our current, he's Assistant Chief of Mills Township Volunteer Fire Department, but currently running the active role because Chief Brian Gilbert is on vacation. They both reached out to me regarding some concerns on the letter, the timelines of, what would needed to be done and the costs. So I just kind of wanted to have a little conversation regarding that. I do understand that the 911 is its own authority. But again, I had their supervisor and the Township Fire Department reach out to me with some concerns. One issue that I do have, and I did talk to Jessie this afternoon. I called her, had a very, very good lengthy conversation with her. The first sentence where it states Ogemaw County Emergency Dispatch Authority has been requested to move its VHS fire paging radios from the old sheriff's office into the dispatch server room. All the conversations I've been a part of when we've talked about the jail moving, the sheriff's department moving over to the jail, that was one item that was brought up, is the fact that, we had that equipment in the room inside the old sheriff department. And I know I always said and felt that I heard the kind of same message that we would do whatever we had to do to maintain that room so that equipment would be fine and be functional inside the old sheriff department. So that first sentence just throws me off by stating that it has been requested to move. So I contacted Tim yesterday, asked him about that. Tim said that he did have a conversation with Jesse a while back. I don't know, Tim, if you'd like to fill in a little bit on that, or?
I can. I mean, it occurred right as the move was happening with the sheriff's office, and Jesse had expressed some concern about the building, being too cold for the equipment and the lights being shut off. And we assured her the lights were on, and if we needed to provide a small space heater for that room, we'd do it. But we also recognized that tower is right there, and that wasn't going anywhere. And that we did feel that that was actually not a bad location for that equipment that needed to be out of the main dispatch center. Now, that building may not be there in 10 years. And if that happens, of course, we will keep 911 informed. So that if we do have to move or take the building down, that they've got a place to go. But in the meantime, and I talked to Jesse too, just assured her that that is available. There's no plans for that space.
Are you done?
Well, I just, basically, again, I understand this is authority. Due to a few concerns in my township, I do see that there'd be a big cost of talking with Gene, and Gene would have the right to speak at public comment. After this, when we get to that point, if he'd like, they had a meeting this past Tuesday night, the volunteer fire department did. And the cost they were looking at, it seemed like it would cost them around $40,000. Now that is a big cost. And then, of course, this letter states May 1st, but it does say that, of course, we would never put anyone in our county at risk or in danger. So the cost is a situation. Of course, I don't know what the timeline it would be to get this equipment, but I imagine it would take a while, and it would have to be assembled and programmed and what have you. And then also, I know in Mills Township alone, we have 10 to 12 sirens that run off of this as well. So all of those are going to have additional equipment, costs and what have you. So I just wanted to bring it to our attention. And then also the main part of that, I was very clear the fact that we would do everything we could to keep that equipment safe and functional at the old sheriff department.
I sit on the 911, and Mr. Beach and I had a conversation briefly about this last night, and I also talked to Jesse today. I sit on the 911 board. I definitely think that this issue needs to be taken up with them. They are their own entity. They have an amazing board over there. They function well. They work very well. This similar, maybe not quite of a abrasive letter, went out the month prior. Right now, there's only three, I don't mean only, but there's 3 fire departments that do not have these 800 radios that are still working on the VHF. And I do my best to understand this. So so all the other fire departments have the 800 handhelds. So this, from the VHF, the issue with it is, yes, the equipment, we are uncertain with that building over there. Especially when this transition happened. So I have heard it said that, hey, we need to basically find homes for these things in the future. There was no timeline, but all the equipment for 911 does definitely need to be stored in one building. I think it's very poor practice to be in numerous different buildings. But with the VHF, how Jesse has explained it to us as a board is that it doesn't record. So that's a liability. The 800s does record the conversations or whatever takes place. The VHF does not. So they are concerned about this. Plus the 800s are an upgrade, which we all know. We just got hit with Tom's upgrades. We get hit with these a couple times a year. Unfortunately, it's the way that things are. The 3 fire departments, when this letter went out last month, we were told got no response. So as a board, we decided, hey, let's send out another letter with a deadline, hoping to get a response. So obviously we're getting a response, which is good. We definitely want the response. I seen this letter for the first time today. It does seem a little abrasive, but it's pretty much to the point. I think the majority of these statements in here are factual. We have a meeting April 9th. I invite all fire parties to the board meeting. There will be ample time for you guys to speak. Jesse did say one of the other fire departments sounds like they are upgrading to these 800s. So that's, I understand why you brought it here. It was brought to you, but I think it needs to go to the 911 authority board. They practice very well. They are very independent. And there are definitely areas for help. There's grants out there. There's conversation that needs to occur. Again, this letter was a little abrasive. It definitely got to the point, but at least there's a response. The previous letter got no response. So there are reasons for these upgrades. So that's where I stand. That's all that I know. Jesse answered the phone today. She also had a very lengthy conversation, and the board, I'm sure you guys know, numerous members on the board. So I look forward to seeing you April 9th.
Can I just one more
Go
thing? And in full transparency, because I did have a very good conversation with Jessie today. And she did say that she had reached out to a number of these departments with no communication back. That's what she told me.
Yes. Which is frustrating. So unfortunately, when you send a much more abrasive letter that has a deadline on it, and again, she reassured all of us that there will be no stopping in service. I mean, that's a given, but at least we're getting some communication now, which is much appreciated. So anything else, Commissioner Wiltie?
No, one other question I had for her was, just regarding the fund balance. Well, I'd asked Tim to find out the fund balance of the authority for me, just because I was wondering, what that balance was. And we know that our constituents of Ogemaw County are paying a millage for 911. So I was wondering what the balance was and if there'd be that possibility of, if we are fluent and financially in a good position, can this type of equipment be upgraded through the authority? And Jesse did state to me that there is a number of, we have 7 total in the county. There is a number that are running the 800s and that they paid for them on their own.
Correct. We've upgraded. They've done some amazing upgrades over there. They do have state-of-the-art equipment. Again, the board is very fiscally wise. The amount of money, very similar to the transit, when something goes down, is astronomical, but they have upgraded all. They have the very, very good. It's, if you ever get an opportunity to take a walk through there, as far as equipment wise. But again, there are grants that she's talked about, but we have not provided any funding. And I did ask that last question at the meeting for these 800 radios to any of the other fire departments. So my concern is Richland is one of my fire departments. They have a millage, but it's very, very minimal. Their funding is, I don't know if they're going to have the funding for this, and I'm sure they're going to require assistance with writing a grant. So I did verbalize that. They have very little reserve over there. So,
Okay, thank you.
any unfinished business? Administrator / controllers report.
Got a report on the iPads and just highlights the first thing that something I'm kind of proud of. For the first time in my life, I actually sent out more emails than I received. Who knew? All right, seriously, on the transition to our Michigan medical examiner group, that transition has gone amazingly smooth so far. I spoke with Lisa yesterday. They hired 2 medical examiner investigators specifically for Ogemaw County, and at least one of those has worked with our county in the past. And so that's moving along. They did also were able to get an agreement with one of our local hospitals for storage and using their coolers, which was very good news. Well, the MMMEG is also working pretty aggressively with the clerk's office, just in terms of coordinating documents, requests, and payments. And anybody needs anything like a death certificate or any information from the medical examiner on their webpage, they do have a link specifically for Ogemaw County requests, and it will walk you through the process to secure whatever document you might need. And it's actually pretty impressive. We're not their first county, so this isn't something that they're having to develop brand new, but it's a very impressive process, and I think very effective. They also received a grant from Department of Health and Human Services at the state level for a CAT scanner, which they'll be able to use when they have autopsies and other work that they do as medical examiners, and will help that process along. She's also working with Saginaw County for use of their autopsy facilities. I think she mentioned that when she was here on the interviews, but she's actually got meetings scheduled, I think tomorrow, to talk to them and to get that rolling, which will be good for any investigation work that they have to do for our county. It's a much closer facility than anywhere else that they use. And they are unfortunately having to work through some outstanding issues brought about by our former vendor, but they're working through them now. They are our medical examiner of record, and I think anybody who has any dealings with that will find this group much easier to work with and much more efficient in terms of their response. So that was all good. First of our ARPA projects got underway in earnest this week. So the lighting system is being changed out. I was the fortunate recipient of a new light. So when I got in this morning and put the switch on, it was a lot brighter. but in a very positive way too, certainly not overcoming. But also, well, this morning, they switched out the switches that go in there. These are all going to be motion activated now, which particularly for this room, it's going to be very nice because it's used by a lot of people and oftentimes lights are left on. You know, I talked to Karen this morning and she and I do the same thing. We walk by, we shut them off. Well, now they're going to go off on their own. We won't need to worry about it, but we'll also be more energy efficient and brighter. So that project is really moving along. They'll be here at least a couple of weeks. I'm just guessing, just based on the amount of time it took just to do my office this morning. If you talk to the electricians, it's not that complicated, but there's just a lot of parts or a lot of things that they have to do when they take the light down and changing things out. Way over my knowledge level, but so far the work has been, I think, pretty amazing. If anybody wanted to walk back to my office and watch the light go on without touching anything, yeah, that's a lot of fun. Just one quick spoiler alert for you too for April. We have a number of appointments that you're going to have in front of you on April 3rd. Diane Gorney from Wellvance will be here. She's the presenter from the MTA meeting last year that went over a lot of current issues in the behavioral health field. I think you'll find it very informative. On April 10th, LaDonna will be here to, as she did last year, award the Spotlight Award presentation to that recipient. It'll be probably about a 15-minute presentation, but it was, I thought, very well received last year. Looking forward to having that occur. And then on April 15th, that's not a typo, it is a Tuesday. That's our annual equalization meeting. Randy will be here to present the equalization report, but we'll also have the internal control report presented by the accountant from Maynard Custarian. We've already reviewed this at the department head level. There are implications in this report for the board. And so Bethany Verbal will go over some of the policy recommendations that she has. I've asked her to keep it to 15 minutes. It's a thick document. When you see it, don't be overwhelmed. There's just a lot of support documents at the end with sample policies and explanations as to why those policies are important to the county. And also, we had already scheduled Diebold Agency to come in and just talk about insurance. You know, we talk about that a lot. You know, when we have a vehicle accident or we have a lawsuit that's filed, the insurance carrier steps in and they'll be here to talk to us about some trends in that field and just some general background. And then finally, handed out at your seat here tonight was a 20-year trend on our general fund balance. Mr. Welty asked about when was the last time we had a year when we actually had a fund balance. All those bars on that graph that you see in black are years that we had fund balances, and the reds are years that we did not. Now, getting back to Commissioner Serbrook's comment at the beginning of the meeting about the accounting that occurred, each of these red lines did not show up as a red line in those audit reports. What happened was there were funds transferred, I know, from the tax delinquency fund to help balance in those years, but also this is the transaction that Nathan talked about last time where they moved money around from other funds to make the general fund look whole. What you're seeing on this graph is really the true picture. This is what people like Karen and I look at. We don't, go for the maneuvering of the funds. I understand why it has to happen. But in our world, we didn't really have a fund balance a lot of those years. And again, all credit to the board. These last 4 years, you can see the incremental improvement to get us up above that break-even point. Where we have work to do yet, that red dashed line at the top is the recommended minimum fund balance for an organization like Ogemaw County. That would be 2 months worth of reserve. And so as you see, we've got a ways to go yet before we're there. But that's the ultimate goal, is to at least reach that bar. And then from that point forward, the policies that are already adopted for reserves will really be able to kick in. And that will keep us on firm financial footing for as long as we can maintain that, which I expect the board will make a priority moving forward. Any questions?
I have a
Go ahead.
couple. First off, thanks, Tim, for this handout. I mean, I know we talked about this last week, but these hard decisions that we've had to make and we have to continue to make, and we have to continue to work very, very hard. But we are heading in the right direction. Long ways to go, but we are creating financial stability for this great county. And this is what we're going to see. And we're going to see that that trend continue to go. It's gotta go in that direction. We gotta be consistent with our actions and just keep going that direction. So one more thing, regarding to the, construction here. So Tim, you're kind of, I guess, in a way, kind of like our quasi project manager. And that's fine, but as I walked out of the building last week, I ran into one of the project managers from, Jack Morris Construction. All that I know of Jack Morris Construction is nothing but good. But one thing I asked him, because I was kind of concerned when we were kind of accepting the bid, and of course, we only had one bid, and it is what it is, but they did make a comment that we're gonna have substantial less glass. Now, I understand the point of this is, we wanna save money. The more glass we have, no matter what, it's gonna cost more money to keep this place warm and cold. But also, we don't want this building just to look like a big block, no glass. I mean, we still want to be able, this is our county building. We want to be proud of it. We want to be able to have it look professional. At least I feel that way. So I had asked him, I said, are we going to get some examples of what you guys are thinking? Because they were very clear about the fact that, you're going to lose quite a bit of glass. So he said, yeah, we're going to, get some things together and we're going to show you guys some different examples and stuff. And I said, great. And then I just asked, I said, roughly, I was at the back doors where you come in, where we all come in. And you look up and you got all that glass there. I said, so what percentage of that glass do you think will no longer be there when we, go through with this construction? And that 75% number was used. So I really think it's important that we just make sure that we all get to look at this and feel good about this. Cause again, I understand why we're doing this, but we don't want this to spend $700,000 and the job gets over with and we all look at each other like, whoa, you know what I mean? So I just, as the project manager, basically, I ask that, we have some good communication on that because I am a little concerned of what the building is going to look like. So
Definitely, for sure. And I think, there's still opportunity for us to make some adjustments, maybe not all of the glass, the 75%, maybe we come up with a plan that maybe takes it to half or whatever is the most palatable to the county. As long as we don't start adding costs, it sounds to me like we would be subtracting costs by doing that. Now, the other caution that I've been getting bombarded with emails all week about the federal government. Well, they're pretty sternly worded emails, cracking down and making sure that everything is an eligible expense and making sure that the funds were committed on time, et cetera. And if they're not, they're going to want the money back. If we reduce the cost, and that was clearly the highest cost that we had of all the projects.
Right.
I think it was over 700,000. If we spend only 400,000, the likelihood is the federal government's going to want that back. So just make sure everybody is aware of that going on. It wasn't our money technically to begin with. It's not going to be taken from our general fund. It just would be money that they've sent to us that we would have to send back. So we'll keep that in our mind, but there may be, some modifications that we can do. I don't know, the ventilation or something that's around those windows that will help and will use up those dollars.
Right.
But I trust with Jack Morris Construction that we'll be able to make maximum use of those dollars to the benefit of the building, and then hopefully not have a whole lot that we end up sending back, if any.
Right. All right, I just wanted to bring everybody's attention. Thank you.
I hope that this graph looks great. I hope that these numbers paint a clear picture. I think we need to keep in the back of our minds that with this fund balance this year, which was fantastic, $500,000 of that was ARPA funds, which we won't see next year. The commissary fund was $250,000. We won't have that next year, but that marijuana, hopefully those funds will help supplement that. It's going to be very interesting to see. I can't wait for next year's audit with these difficult decisions that have been very strenuous, I believe, on all of us. How much money this is going to save. I think next year is going to be a very, very, very clear picture. Moving forward. The other thing is I talked to the medical examiner this week, unfortunately on a very complex case. What an amazing conversation. Very pleased. So I think we definitely, as a board, made a very good decision. The communication was top notch. So it was refreshing. That's the first time. Any other questions for Tim?
One more.
Go ahead.
All right, Q2 is almost over, Tim. When will we'd be able to see
Budget committee will have it when you meet,
next Thursday.
right? And then I believe,
Thursday after.
yeah,
Not next Thursday, the Thursday after.
I don't think we can have it ready for next Thursday. We can certainly have just the general printout, that you can see as a commission, but maybe, maybe we can be ready that quickly, but certainly in April, we'll do the quarterly adjustments. That'll be the halfway point, and I think that's going to paint a very clear picture of where we're headed.
Okay, thank you.
Elected officials and department head reports. Clerk, I'm not gonna forget you tonight.
I appreciate that. Brett Gilner, your Ogemaw County Clerk. The only thing that I have is election related. In the newspaper this week, you will see an ad for Oscoda County for the registration. The reason there's Oscoda County, there's one township that has 33 voters, I think it is. They're actually voting in the city of Rose City. So, if anybody questions why they're seeing County of Oscoda stuff, that's why. Next week begins the testing phase for everybody. So, Election Source is coming and doing the testing on the equipment on Tuesday and Wednesday for those who chose to have Election Source come and do the testing. And then, there's townships that are choosing to do it themselves, which is what is suggested by the state. Those are also beginning, so, election is in full force. The absentee ballots should be, if they haven't gone out already, they will be going out, this weekend. So I've heard from the majority of my clerks and they're working on them all, so it should be any day that they're getting delivered.
What was the deadline for the August? I know you gave it to us at the last meeting. For millages, anybody?
I don't remember.
I have my meetings this upcoming week, so.
I'll look and.
Treasurer?
Good evening, everyone. Karen Pulowski, your Ogemaw County Treasurer. I have a couple of updates for you tonight. Next week, the 2022 taxes will be foreclosed. If you owe, anybody in the public is listening, if you owe for your 2022 taxes, Monday, the 31st at 4:30 is your deadline. Make sure you get in and get those paid. The 2024 tax settlement is complete. It is a bit higher this year than last year. The total is $3,353,039.63. That is $302,289.81 higher than last year's delinquent total. We had 3,965 parcels come to us delinquent. And I did up a little chart in a spreadsheet for you, just to give you a little history of from 2019 to 2024, the trend of, or what the original tax roll was, what came to us delinquent, the percentage of delinquent compared to the whole. And then I also threw in a column of, from the equalization report, what our tax bill increases were that year. And then I just want to point out that one year we did have that Rifle River drain assessment. There was $30,000 that came to us delinquent on that drain assessment one year. So a little history for you. I also want to mention that we have new technology that we implemented in our office this year using full remote support to assist our township treasurers. If they were struggling and needed assistance, Mary from my office is a super tech and was able to create that for us and actually dial into their computers and work remotely desktop to desktop and be able to walk them through different reports and help them resolve issues they were having. She has got an amazing skill set that was missing from our office technology wise. And of course, my other girls, amazing team. I can't say enough good things about the staff I have. An update on the land bank that you haven't heard in a while. We have a project at 215 Washington Street in Prescott, and we recently hired beer line companies. We only received 3 bids for the project. We selected beer line companies as the contractor for our demolition. Right now, we're just waiting for Don to come back so he can make a contract for us. And once I have that, I have to now have it approved because it is federal monies. Grant monies that we're using for the blight elimination has to be approved by the state land bank before they can sign their contract, and then our project will begin. So hopefully sometime in May, we're going to be tearing down another house.
This is
Great.
project number
6.
Congratulations.
Great job.
Yes, thank you. Dan.
By looking at this, Greg, I appreciate this information that you gave us. This is the high, 2024 is the highest,
Yes,
going back to 2019.
but you can, see on the tax, we took a big jump in our tax. bill.
Yeah, 7.5%.
Taxes were higher this year for people and our families are struggling.
Mhm.
So, I do offer financial hardship payment plans for those families that are struggling financially. They can come in as long as they meet certain requirements economically and their income levels. I'm able to set them up on a payment plan to budget that out for them.
Thank you, Karen.
Thank you.
Jenny, May 15th.
Oh, thank you. I pass that on to them. For the August election, May 15th.
Can I ask you?
Go ahead, go, yes.
Quick question. Greg, do you know how many townships bought the new tabulating machines? I know of two. I know Horton did and Edwards did.
Horton did, Edwards did, Hill did. Ogemaw. I believe they're going to, I don't think they're getting all three things.
Okay.
But I know they put it in their budget to get some. I was doing training at the city of West Branch with Lorianne today. And Election Source is actually coming to their meeting because they're not part of,
Right.
so. But they had me send.
These
them a
new
quote to get
tabulars,
them.
be on the board that don't know, are just the cat's pajamas.
Yeah,
They are far and above, way faster for tabulating ballots. I mean, it's amazing.
did you guys get them?
It really.
Or were you? Well, you would have just put it in your budget and just ordered them like in the last month. I couldn't remember if she did or not. I know I talked to her about it,
I
yeah.
think it's gonna help the townships that got these new ones. It's gonna be a lot smoother.
Well, and
The
the,
good thing is with the school election, it's not, any bugs can get worked out without creating a huge backlog. So it's a good time to have them.
if you came to the early voting, we have them. So anybody that has previously voted in their township and then came to the early voting, that's really the only way that
Night and
you're
day.
gonna recognize really how fast it is, but it is, like, for you guys especially. It would say, because you guys are the ones that have the lines. You know, it would cut down a lot of time, but, I think that. The majority of them will eventually get there. Hopefully,
Is there early voting in May as well? There's not.
no.
Okay,
The only early voting is when the state tells me I absolutely have to.
okay. Are you gonna have it here at the county building or no early voting at all? Okay, that was my question.
No.
Any other questions? Any other department heads or elected officials? Nobody in the room? Anybody on the phone? Jeff, do you have anything?
Just a couple of things. Yesterday, the Veterans Alliance had their annual meeting and they elected, not elected. They nominated their Veteran of the Year for 2025, which is Randy Hike, an Army veteran, Vietnam era, and then they nominated two other people for our Veterans Committee, replacement for Mark DeBoer, and of course, renominating Don Card. So that'll be coming to you guys, the next Board of Commissioner meeting. I'll get that to Tim next week. And then, they also selected a new Alliance president. Again, Mark DeBoer is retiring, and so John Bennett. Most people know who John Bennett is, but, he's an Army veteran also of Vietnam, but he's been elected as the Alliance president. And lastly, our grant finally came through. We're just waiting for it to hit the books so that we can start spending it.
Thanks, Jeff. Any other elected officials, department heads? Anybody on the phone I missed? Motions from the floor, manners from the floor. Any commissioners? Motions for adoption, commissioner reports. Commissioner Wiltie?
I had recently a housing meeting. We're pretty excited about the new added exposure and momentum that we got from the open house. We did have a couple high ups from Taylor Door there. And a couple other local business owners that were there, asking questions. We do have a couple of new developers that are asking questions in the area for trying to possibly build some new homes or apartments. So good momentum there. We're already talking about another open house this summer, kind of have it more niche, where it'd be kind of more specific to housing stock or to apartments or to rehab. So moving forward there in a good direction, good momentum. This past Monday with Commissioner Serbrook, I sat on my first Wellvance, former Asaba Mental Health Board meeting. It was very informal. It was a really good group of people on that board. We did have State Rep Mike Hoadley there. Mike spoke a little bit, but it was more just kind of questions, answers, and some of the concerns that the northern area has. I believe there's 20-some counties that are ultimately in this 5 CMH community mental health regions.
NMRE, right?
Yeah, that's the NMRE is the overall of all those counties, and there's some situations going on there financially, and there's some problems, but they're trying to get a grasp on it. But looking forward to serving on that board. Went to a road commission meeting this past Wednesday morning. They're looking at for their foremen's job descriptions and possibly moving them into supervisor superintendent roles. They discussed that for a while. Right now at the state level, there is the possibility of some big time money if both the House and the Senate will approve it for county roads, which would be ultimately good for our road commission. We definitely know that that money will go to good use. EDC had a number of different things. We had a strategic planning meeting for the EDC last Friday. Great, as I always say, great group of people. We're working on a lot of good goals to continue to bring new business to the area and then also to support current business. I also had an EDC education workshop this past Tuesday morning. We will be shooting to have a couple classes for our local business owners on Excel and how to take your Excel spreadsheet to the next level, which is a very important part of most business. And then we will have a workshop regarding customer service. And then also had a broadband meeting with that BEAD program, which we talked about the resolution tonight, me and Penny with the EDC, basically with the coordinator, just asking him if there's anything we're missing right now before this April 9th deadline. He was really impressed how the amount of traction here in the county the last couple of weeks. So that meeting went well. One more thing. Yesterday morning, I am the liaison with the Sting. The Sting is a very important entity to a 5-county area. There was a raid yesterday morning in Mills Township area. It went really well. And I think it's just a definite stance that, Ogemaw County is not the place for safe haven for these people. They think they come down south and set up here in Ogemaw County. If they do, they will get busted and they will go to prison. So a big shout out and thank you to the State Sting and the surrounding agencies that work with them. That's all I got.
Commissioner Serbrook.
Attended airport. We are Mr. Evergreen, the airport manager, is gonna be here at our committee of the whole next week.
Yeah.
So he can give you the latest and greatest as to what's going on at the airport, because I'm new on the board and a lot of these acronyms kind of go over my head a little bit. But he did give me the grand tour. The weather was decent, so I got to see some of the new equipment. It's been quite a while since I've been out there, so pretty interesting. Horton Township, I attended. Horton Township passed their budget. They had their budget hearing and they, in record time, went through 16 different resolutions to adjust some of their budget issues that they had. So that worked out real well. Transit, Charlie and I were on transit. In regards, I'm gonna grab my notes here because there's a bit there. Oh, the mechanic's gonna leave and we finally, I think, have a firm date for that. But, Tony, the director there, he had advertised for the mechanic's position and assistant mechanic's position. And the plan is to take and, bring aboard the new mechanic and have him work side by side with the current mechanic for a period of time. There's gonna be some discussion at our next meeting in regards to how long that time frame is going to be and when it's gonna happen, but he had 24 applicants, believe it or not, and he shortlisted 5 of them. It may be, given the fact that we finally have a hard date from the current mechanic, it may be a little premature at this point in time to actually hire somebody because we're looking at January, I believe, first part of January of 26
Well,
before the current mechanic leaves. So he was back and forth about what his retirement date was gonna be, and he was told, you need to come up with a firm date so we know what's going on here, so. They're working on SOPs for the dispatchers there, all the dispatchers aren't things exactly the same, so Tony's working on an SOP for the dispatchers so that everybody's on the same page in regards to that. They've got 4 buses that are no longer in service. They're gonna sell those. 3 of them are operational, 1 is not. Tony's having monthly staff meetings, which is a good thing. And they got new overhead doors that are at the time of the meeting were being installed, so they should be installed by now, so. That's what's going on with transit. As Commissioner Wilson said, we had our well advanced meeting Monday afternoon. Representative Hoadley, and as Commissioner Wilson said, it was basically a Q&A kind of session. Most of what was discussed was with the board telling him what has happened in the past, the disconnect between Michigan Department of Health and Human Services and the community mental health community as a whole across the state of Michigan. There was an issue last year where the legislature actually appropriated several, almost $100 million that DHHS at the state level held on to and didn't distribute to the community mental health groups. The question was, why didn't they? The legislature appropriated the funds, DHHS had the funds sitting there. They didn't distribute them like they were supposed to. We don't know why.
so what's
But-
what's the
but-
answer to that question?
But it reverted to their general fund. There is no answer to the question at this point in time. And frankly, he didn't have any idea what the recourse might be for that. I mean, the fiscal year's over with, so it didn't, the money didn't trickle down. And as we all know, mental health's a huge issue. District Health 2 had their audit report on Monday as well. I am happy to report that their fund balance is about 20% of current year expenditures. So they're in good shape as far as the fund balance goes. And again, it's the same issue with the community mental health. So many of their dollars are derived from Medicaid. They're just everybody's just kind of in a holding pattern because we don't know what's going to happen with Medicaid. It's not like the sky is falling, but everybody's just kind of holding their breath to see what finally shakes out. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Commissioner Mayhew.
Nothing.
I've only had one because all mine start, I have Michigan Works tomorrow and all mine start next week, but we had a meeting last night with the zoning. We've been discussing now for a while at our zoning meetings, which typically are later in the evening, and we have been having numerous cell towers, and by the time we get even talking about solar, wind energy ordinances, it's late and everybody's pretty much had enough, and we're waiting for the transition at the federal level to see what was going to shake out. And so anyways, last night, Ryan had put out a few emails to local entities, anybody that wanted to come. And actually there was a pretty good turnout, I thought, related to battery storage ordinance. Your county has to have an ordinance for the battery storage, and this is for the solar energy. So last night, Ryan handed all of us kind of a sample template, went over it with us. There was some open discussion. There's going to be a few tweaks. It lasted about an hour and a half. Quite a few townships were there, gave some input. A lot of questions. There's more to come on that, but at least we're moving forward with these ordinances. If it's going to have a template, and then it's going to come back to the zoning board for final approval if this is the direction we decide to take. If you don't do this at a local level, the state will do it. They are giving us some financial incentive to move forward with this. Obviously, consumers and everybody would like to deal with us at a local level. The red flag is, again, is the state's throwing some money at us to do this, which always comes wondering why, but anyways. It was nice having a lot of things I didn't understand and still don't understand about all of this stuff, but, I'm getting a better grasp on it. As far as energy, Mr. Beach, gave some good explanations last night about energy, so. Anyways,
I've got one thing in the airport that I forgot to mention. The annual fly-in is June 21st.
oh, that's big.
I have one more.
I skipped
Yes.
it, so.
Commissioner Wiltie.
Commissioner Serbrook gave, great detail of the transit meeting. A lot of great things going on there. But one thing we did ask is, we know with the financial situation, no millage. We really have to make sure that we're running as lean as possible, but yet as efficient as possible. And we really don't have a good data program to kind of see, for example, bus number 3 that runs from 10 to 1 in West Branch, how many pickups on Tuesday compared to, Wednesday and Thursday. So we're gonna, Tim's gonna help Tony, and we're gonna dive into getting a little better program so we can get more data. We need strong data to kind of find that out to see if we're running a little bit too rich, or maybe we can cut back a little bit, because we really got to watch the finances out there. So we're gonna be getting a lot more data, and we'll share, some of that information with you guys once we get it.
General public comment. Do you know the rules?
Bruce Beach, Township Supervisor. I just wanted to thank Charles for bringing that up about the 911 thing. I'm so new, so I'm learning all this stuff too. I just wanted to point out the main things, which he already had pointed out. Our concerns tonight were, whether you guys had requested that be moved or not. And then the next concern was just for the taxpayers, trying to understand, how that money gets the millage money gets handled, and rather there can be any help with those funds. So I just wanted to thank Charles for bringing that up, and we will see you at the meeting on the 9th.
Thank you, sir. Any other public comment? Come on up, sir.
I don't know the rules because I'm not a big public speaker.
You got 3 minutes.
Politician.
That's it.
I'm part that.
I
has been
appreciate
in the
that.
police Department for 37 years.
Your name?
Gene Meyer.
Go ahead, Gene.
I'm currently the assistant chief. Chief Gilbert's on vacation right now, but we're still handling the business. I guess it's confusing. I remember days when towers acted up and our dispatch coordinator, or whatever you'd like to call the person in charge, she was out trying to get generators out to towers to power them up so that they could page. There were outrageous things that had happened and were always addressed as a team. Okay, so now, a few years ago, it was voted that we now have a 911 authority. Okay, what really has changed? And in reference to providing the service, what are the parameters? Okay, if you folks all have a radio, you 4 have Kenwoods, okay, popular radio. You 2 have Motorola's. If all of a sudden I'm no longer gonna support Motorola's, you're on your own, go buy new radios. You folks are sitting all right. You're gonna be okay. I'm an authority. Okay? Buy radios, fit it in your budget, come up with the money. Tell your citizens, okay? Meanwhile, right now, what you've got is this over here is the people that have bought into and accepted the fact that everybody's going to 800s. They've done their due diligence, and in their decision, they've decided, okay? Over here, you folks are represented by Mills Township and Ogemaw Fire. And according to their due diligence, they're not ready to go to 800 because there's some fallacies with it. The radio programs don't have the budget money set aside for it. Everybody's got priorities. Okay. You also happen to be close to 75% of the population of the county. you're sitting good. You're in that sweet minority. Or no, you're out because you're in the minority that wasn't decided, but over here, this is where there aren't gonna be any, paging after, 800 system is the only way to go. And I guess my question is there a contract for the 911 authority as far as the parameters of what they're supposed to provide? Did the towers that were pre-existent, are they owned by someone else? Who is responsible for them towers or the costs associated with keeping them viable? Do we know?
I apologize, but your 3 minutes is up. There is a meeting April 9th. Please come to it. I'm sure all of your questions will be answered.
Also, there's that information I sent to you about a report from the 911 authority.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Any other public comment? Come on up, sir. I know you know the rules.
Yes, ma'am. Miss me?
Absolutely.
Real quick, regarding the BEST system, you are completely spot on with regard to that. If you don't get out in front of this at the county level, the state will come in and dictate how it's handled. There's a fella downstate, Bob DePalma, recently retired supervisor of Groveland Township in Oakland County. They just dealt with this issue, and he would be a source and a subject matter expert you may want to consult with. He's a brilliant man, and he'd be willing to share what he's learned about the BEST system with you folks if you'd be interested in talking to him. So, but I would like to recommend that. At some after the meeting, I'd like a couple of minutes with you, Mr. Wiltsey, if possible. Thank you.
Is that it?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. Any other public comment? Any public comment on the phone? Motion to adjourn? All in favor? Opposed, motion carries 6:31. Commissioner Scott was just texting me or calling me.
Everyone.